You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast, recognized as one of the top 100 diversity and inclusion podcasts in the U.S. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship-building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. Now, today I'd like to share with you a few thoughts about politics, activism, and sports, the student-athlete boycott debate. Now, in recent news, the NAACP has called on college student athletes to reconsider committing to certain Southern universities following the Supreme Court's decision to gut the Voting Rights Act, which prompted many political leaders to immediately initiate redistricting efforts, seemingly intended to reduce voting access and ultimately significantly reducing the political representation in those states and beyond. The states being targeted by the campaign are Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, South Carolina, Texas, and Georgia. And while many see this call to boycott as being consistent with other similar challenges in response to unfair treatment and the need for change, many others have expressed feeling uncomfortable with asking students to lead this charge. And since this debate is impacting cross-cultural relationships between people on various sides of this argument, I would like to offer a few considerations that may help facilitate mutual understanding and healthier discussions, no matter what your preference or belief may be about what should happen regarding politics, activism, and sports, the student-athlete boycott debate. Consideration number one is this. It is valid to recognize the power that student-athletes hold. Some who find themselves uncomfortable with calling on student athletes to boycott feel that it might be unfair to burden young students with the seemingly larger-than-life responsibility of influencing political change. What this perspective doesn't take into account is that they're already influencing political change. College and university athletic programs are responsible for generating millions of dollars for the states they're in. Political leaders rely on these programs and factor them into state budgets that empower them to make many other decisions, hopefully to benefit the many residents of those states. Thus, if the student athletes boycott those universities, significantly reducing the success of those programs, resulting in less popularity and thus less revenue generated as a result, it will ultimately negatively impact the state as a whole and hinder the ability of the political leaders to accomplish their goals. This was notably evident in situations like 2020, where Mississippi State running back Caitlin Hill was one of SEC's top rushers at the time, stated that he would not represent the state or play for the university unless the Confederate emblem was removed. His stance, along with other players who were inspired to do the same, pressured state lawmakers, and within days, the NCAA, SEC, and Conference USA threatened to ban postseason championships in the state unless the flag was altered. Shortly after, the Mississippi legislature voted to retire the old flag, ultimately replacing it with a new design. The pattern here was clear. Students spoke up, prompting their schools and sports association leaders to speak up. And the political leaders, seeing the negative impact of their threat would have, made the change. The hope of many in a boycott like this is for student athletes to realize their unique power that they hold and use that influence to bring about change that will positively impact many others. Which brings me to consideration number two. We must also remember the risk the boycott is asking student athletes to take. Despite the legitimate reasons to desire change and the acknowledgement that student athletes are in a position of influence, whether they realize it or not, many are also acknowledging that the decision to utilize this influence comes at a very high risk. On an emotional level, many of these athletes are just now old enough to vote and learning about the political process as a whole from a participation perspective rather than an academic one. And before many of them even have a chance to vote, they're being asked to put what many of them believe to be their livelihood and future on the line to impact the masses. And let's be clear, for many of them, that is exactly what it feels like. For many, they have worked hard at a sport that some play for fun, but they see as their unique gift, which they can use to create a future, provide for a family, and similarly positively impact others. And as a result of years of hard work, they got accepted to a notable college university with a chance to later become a professional athlete. And then someone they don't know suggests that it's their responsibility to risk giving all of that up because of the unfair decisions of certain political leaders they also don't know in states that they probably haven't even visited yet. Many of them only have the context of, say, athletes like Colin Kaepernick and many others kneeling to express their political views, ultimately resulting in increased conversation for the masses. But also, Colin Kaepernick never played football again. This is a heavy burden to place on these young athletes. Not only that, but some suggest that top athletes may be able to have this influence as their revenue generating impact may be considered higher. But many other athletes would be easily sacrificed with no fanfare, primarily negatively impacting athletes themselves with long term consequences and not much appreciation in return. In contrast, the belief is that in order for mass change to occur, mass boycotts of notable as well as lesser known athletes left programs in the masses as well. Still, the risk would be high, just more evenly distributed. Some have argued that they can still play the game they love, with potential to go pro, launching from other universities and other non Southern states, or even historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs in those same states. Not because of hypocritical ideologies, but because those HBCUs are already making their feelings known and speaking out against these political practices. Yet, the student athletes know that while the game may be the same, future prospects and the potential for recognition from scouts and professional teams will be significantly reduced in those programs. Not only that, but this uncertain public impression impact of a decision to boycott might also paint a negative picture for potential future professional coaches and team owners who may view them as a problem and not worth the political hassle to draft them. Is this unfair? Absolutely. But does this also reflect the risk a challenge to boycott is asking them to take? Absolutely. Thus, even those supporting the cause find themselves conflicted regarding how they can have the biggest impact with reduced risk, which leads to consideration number three. It's not about whether the boycott challenge is good or bad, but are they given the freedom to choose? For many, people in positions of influence, no matter their age, have an obligation to make certain sacrifices to support the greater good. And if they don't make those sacrifices, then they're declared ungrateful for the influence they have. They're against anyone who would have benefited from their sacrifice, and ultimately, they're hated as a result. This should not be the case. Everyone will have difficult decisions to make in life with varying degrees of impact on ourselves, those we love, those we care for, and everyone else who could potentially help. And while it is reasonable to ask for help, how that help is given should be up to the person giving it, especially since they are the ones who have to live with the consequences. If you happen to be a professional sports team owner, declaring that athletes who boycott to express their feelings can be reassured that there'll be a place in their team organization when they graduate, well, then that's different. A situation like that supports the athlete, reduce their risks, while keeping the pressure where it deserves on the colleges and universities to speak out, and ultimately where it really deserves on the state leaders who drafted these restrictive laws to feel the heat and make better decisions for all, not just some. Since this is not the case, then students are playing a game of chicken with politicians who believe that they have the leverage. And in many ways, they do. Because of this, the best gift you can give to students, athletes, in support of them is to make this call to boycott university sports an invitation, not an expectation. An invitation can be appreciated and celebrated for all who participate. And for those who don't, they can receive understanding and support, as they had a difficult decision to make with other priorities in mind, and who may still find ways to make their feelings heard and positively impact the community, just not by risking their livelihood and the families who depend on them as a result. With all this being said, my hope for you is that you will be able to contribute to healthy decisions on this admittedly difficult topic. No matter what side of the argument you consider yourself to be, see the merit and concerns of the other side and find a way to support everyone on both sides. After all, no matter how you feel about student-athlete boycotts, there are so many people who can inconvenience themselves and others enough to bring about change. My hope is that we can use this and many other ideas to help make our states and the country as a whole the best it can be for everyone in it, not just some. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Do podcast. If you found it to be positive and insightful, then be sure to like and subscribe so I'll know which topics you'd like me to share on in the future, and share with a friend so that they can be encouraged as well. Find out how you can cultivate culturally safe work environments for you and your team by visiting lambertsfisher.com/playbook for a free guide. You can also learn more about my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, which offers unique ways to positively address the often difficult topic of diversity, equipping helping professionals like you in your efforts to meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself, and if you find it encouraging, share it with a friend so that they can be encouraged as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
Welcome to Old National Bank.
I understand you're all about protection.
Well, we protect you in all kinds of ways, with advanced fraud monitoring and secure digital banking to protect you today, and with dedicated personal bankers to protect your tomorrow.
I'm impressed.
Protection for today and tomorrow.
Could I just...
Oh, go for it.
Old National Bank. Just another reason to get old.
Where'd you get this?
It came with my couch.
Were you counting on a personal care assistant or autism provider who is no longer able to provide services for your child this summer? Don't panic. The Minnesota Department of Human Services just finished an urgent statewide effort to make sure providers of high-risk Medicaid services fully comply with state requirements to provide quality care. The department recently completed a top-to-bottom compliance review of almost 5,600 providers of high-risk services, including personal care assistance and autism programs. If your child's provider was disenrolled, it is time to be proactive. Let me ask you a question. Does your child have a case manager? They usually can help you find a new provider. If your child does not have one, the department will be reaching out to you directly to make sure you know how to find someone new. Understand what's happening and how to get help at mn.gov/DHS/find-care.
Hi. It's easy to just make an ad that tells you to quit smoking. See?
Action!
Easy as that!
Sure is! Yeah!
But let's be real. Quitting is hard. It's messy, frustrating, but every struggle is actually a victory. At Quit Partner, you get free tools from people who get it. We're not going to tell you it's easy, just that when you're ready, you've got a partner to help you get it done.